is Moving Your Business Online. I am Elizabeth Viljoen from Cerebrate New Zealand. We create deep thinking events. This is the second introductory video for a webinar series called Moving Your Business Online. The panelists for this series are Mariana van der Walt, the Managing Director for the New Zealand Institute for Rural Entrepreneurship, and they focus on thriving towns and entrepreneurship. The second panelist is Kaylene Ledgar, a holistic life and communication coach with clients from Australia to the United States. She is also the author of 2 books, including Speaking is Not Worse Than Death. And the third panelist is Tsuro. He is the CEO of FranklySpeaking, and they focus on leadership coaching. He's also the founder and curator for People Making History and the chairman of the board for the eHub. The topic of the introductory video of the series on moving your business online was Remote Work is the Future of Work. We looked at how businesses can turn a worldwide crisis such as COVID-19 on its head by thinking of creative ways to continue, such as doing remote work. The topic for today is creating a digital strategy for your business. So my question to you as panelists is, what digital strategy will a small business need to create in order to form part of a global network?
So for me, my digital strategy is really linked to social media and building a presence on social media. And there's a few things that I needed to think about with that was, who is my ideal client and where is my ideal client in the digital world? And I have a presence on 3 platforms, on LinkedIn, Instagram and Facebook. And Facebook is where I've got a lot of my clients from. And I put that down to not so much my Facebook posts, while having regular Facebook posts and having regular adding value to the clients is really important. And I do have a calendar and a strategy for my regular postings on social media. But I put a lot of it down to doing videos and Facebook Lives. When I started doing that, people started to really be able to connect with me. Whereas previously, when it was just posts, my stories were shared in the post and my content was shared in the post. But I just feel that in this digital world, people connect greater when they can hear you, when they can see you, and they form a stronger connection with you in that space. So that's one area that was really important with me doing my digital strategy and thinking about what can I do. I started off doing regular quotes, which somebody said, don't do that. But my clients like regular quotes because they inspire them and it gets them thinking. So you go with what your clients want and you test the waters. And if it doesn't work, tweak it, try something different. Another part of my strategy has been linked to personal profile Kaylene on Facebook. And what I mean with that is I am my business and I'm very conscious of what I put on my personal profile as well, because I've got clients through there. Even though I'm not pushing my business, I do get clients through my personal profile as well. And some things like that is I had to stop and think, do I want to be seen to be the person that's playing these Facebook games all the time? No, that's not me. Do I want to be the one that's doing all these quizzes? No. So just thinking about that, the posts where people say, if you don't copy and paste this and share it with everybody. No, don't send it to me because I won't do it. But that is part of me and my branding and my digital strategy is I don't play in that space anymore because it wasn't putting me portraying me the way that I wanted within my strategy. So yeah, there are a couple of things that I would recommend for anyone that is thinking about a digital strategy. Be mindful of your professional post and what you're doing for your business, but also remember you want people to know who you are and connect with who you are. I always think twice about what I'm putting out and is this true to my values and what I want. And the same with liking and forwarding other people's posts. It has to fit with what's true to me, so that it's consistent across. If you look across any of my profiles, you get to know who I am.
Okay, so for me, when I started my business, I also started off as a sole trader, and my business was me. And so what then obviously happened was when I started dealing with corporations, I had to register a business, but that business evolved still to be me. So a lot of my clients were mature executives, usually between maybe an average of 55 years old. And so I never really thought I needed social media. In fact, most of my clientele at that level came from referrals. 90% of my business was referrals and is still referrals at this stage. But I think what this opportunity has done is it's allowed us to, think bigger. One of the things that I always dreamt of doing at some point, in fact, that was the plan that I would work on this last year, was to almost start running FranklySpeaking as more of a CEO and get less involved in sometimes the actual dispensation of activity and all that. And I think this pandemic really brought about an opportunity to think bigger about my business and to get to a point where I can work from anywhere. But one of the things that, as someone who works in strategy, one of the things that I would like to almost speak to any small business owner at this stage is that the word digital strategy is almost becoming redundant. The word digital in strategy is almost becoming a little bit redundant now. So digital strategy obviously is how you're going to deliver your product or service. And in doing so, in the past, when people were still more traditional, even though many people were on social media, but when people were a little bit more traditional, a digital strategy was quite key in the sense that it helped you plan for situations like the ones we found ourselves, where many people who were previously resistant of going online ended up being online. However, now your digital strategy has just become your strategy. And there's simple questions you simply need to ask yourself when you're moving yourself online to say, where is my customer? Where is my customer? And if most of your customers right now can't move around, or they are now on social media like Kaylene is, or they could be on any other online platform, you need to be there. If you're running a grocery store or any of those types of things, people now value shopping online because maybe they're afraid, they're trying to social distance or physically distance. And so what you simply need to do is you need to create an option where you're able to set up an online ordering platform. And right now, you could do that via email and WhatsApp, which is quite good, but it's also a bit cumbersome. Maybe why not build a website that takes in orders? And there are some websites that allow you to even collect payments there and there. And if it doesn't, there are many payment processors that can come in to ensure that people order online. And Facebook has now a shop function that allows you to shop from Facebook. And those intuitive thoughts are what make the customer experience better. So now part of your strategy, really, digital is part of our world. for many people going forward, because people were forced to go digital, and it's fast becoming the world. In fact, like I said in the previous session, futurists predict that the 2020s to 2030 will probably be very disrupted by digital technologies. And so the idea is just make it a core part of your strategy. Ask yourself, where is my customer? And who is my customer? What platforms are they on? And give them the content that would enable them to engage with, so that they get to know you and they get to, want to do business with you. And from there, that's how I would say a small business can think about going online without necessarily complicating it. So it can be social media, it can be an e-commerce website, it can be an app, it can be, like for me, one of the things I've done is that we started doing a lot of virtual networking sessions. Still, a lot of people who are still in my clientele base are still not on LinkedIn. They're still not on many of the other social media platforms, at least for business. So going to virtual networking platform versus virtual networking sessions has really made a difference. But as I plan to scale, I know that there's a lot of my millennial customers, my customers of tomorrow, that I need to engage with, and I'm working on making sure that I build a big digital presence out there.
I think my world is a bit different from what the other two have said, and I find it very interesting, the personal branding part of it. Thanks, Kaylene. I really appreciate that. I've also looked at the world where you want to be published online and everything around that to build that brand, and then the e-commerce part. My interest and reality of the online world and the remote work world is a bit different. It started for me in the early 2000s when I noticed this trend of freelancers online that want to do stuff for you. And I always want stuff done. So I started to make use of freelancers online to do stuff for me. So the awareness that suddenly you can access talent that you need or obtain skills that you need online and do and basically come up with a business idea and make it happen regardless of whether or not you got the talent around you. That was fascinating. In the early 2000s, I found that most of the people I worked with was from Bangladesh. They were technically really, really good, but couldn't really speak English and had very little understanding of office etiquette, shall I say, or work etiquette. So it required a special skill to actually get them to deliver what you wanted. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I've been on this journey of following the development of remote work over the years. And the notion of starting a business completely online or having a large company actually that's completely online has appealed to me. Also, I worked in the corporate world, so the notion of bringing remote workers in as part of the team of your normal workforce and extending that and then developing a distributed workforce where some people are in the office physically and other people are not, and how do you build teams like that? I found that fascinating and I worked with that. I even also worked with how do you set up a virtual office that is globally distributed and work across the globe with teams that are globally distributed. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I love doing stuff like this. But then I realized around 2019 that the time for me is really to look at this remote work as a subject more seriously. And the reason is because the notion of working remotely, the notion of working from anywhere is becoming mainstream. It has grown significantly over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's becoming a viable career option. In fact, if you look at what an office job would offer you as a career and what a remote job would offer you as a career, it makes a whole lot of sense. If I were to enter the workforce right now, I would go straight for a remote job. I wouldn't bother to go for an office job. And I think that's becoming the norm. But the big thing is that people still don't really know how to go about it. You know, you look in the whole wide world and you suddenly think, I can work for anybody anywhere in the world. And I did. When I experimented with this, I had customers in America, I had customers all over the world, and I delivered projects for them all over the world. It was great fun. But for me, it was a game. It's almost like I played with it. But the realization that this is becoming an actual career path that most people prefer. Right now, the majority of people, millennials specifically, say they wouldn't really consider a job unless they've got remote work options built into it. It's becoming something that the workforce is demanding. Here's the thing. You look at the whole world and you think, I can do all this stuff and I have access to all this talent, but how do I actually make it happen? How do I actually set it up? How do I actually establish myself? If you go to the online freelancing platforms, for instance, I love looking for the people who have just set themselves up on the platform for two reasons. The first is they are really, really keen to show that they do good work, and I want good work. The second is they're cheap because they want to establish themselves, so I get good work done for less money. So throughout the years, I don't go for the people who already established themselves. I go for the ones that want to be established because they're willing to go the extra mile for a cheaper price. So that's my world. But it's become an actual problem because remote work became more sophisticated. Recruitment now is, to really find a remote job is becoming really, really much more harder than what it used to be. So right now, I believe that remote work or the online world, working online, in whichever, whether you a person on your own, setting up your own business, or whether you actually work for a company that's online. Did you know that more than 16% of companies in the USA recruit only remotely, and they don't have a headquarters, so they only a virtual company? So it's becoming a career option for having a job, not just running a business. But still, you need to think about yourself as a business when you do an online job, because you need to develop your own career. You can't, nobody else is doing it for you. They're just making use of your services. So where we are right now is people look at this open world of opportunity. And if you're anything like me, you start to look at it and you start to fiddle and you say, oh, this is easy. This is easy. They're looking for translators. I can translate. I can speak English. I'm fluent in English. So I can proofread. I can do this, that, and the other, until you actually try to get into stuff like that and you realize it's really, really competitive. It's really hard, even for the low-paying remote jobs, to get into the market right now. So, and I think it's because the remote work online world is becoming like the normal workforce used to be, but it has different dynamics. So right now, like we all know, the best way to find a new job is to know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. It's becoming like that in the online world as well. So linking yourself up with the right online community actually creates the trust and the credibility that you need to be able to find a good remote job. So the notion of doing this in the context of community is what I'm all on about. So I have launched a program helping people who want to establish them in the remote world to start to think differently about themselves and about work. Because what remote work offers is you don't need to adapt to your work. You need to decide what life you want to live, and then what remote work will get you to that life. So we need to make the mind shift first. Think about the life you want to live, and then find the remote work that will get you to that life. That's the first mindset that we need to shift. Once you have done that, you still need to be able to build your career into that particular remote work. How do you do that? So I'm doing two programs at the moment. The one I've already launched, the other one I will be launching in a few months. The one is, I want to establish myself as a remote worker. I need to rethink my life. I need to decide what type of remote work I want to do, and then establish myself in that. The other one is, I'm a business and I want to recruit remotely, and I'm looking for remote people, for people who want to work remotely, and bringing those two together so that when they first recruit remotely, they recruit from those that want to be recruited remotely for the first time, so that I use this layer of remote work of those that are entering the remote work market, because that's where the value really is. I've used this for many, many years, for almost 2 decades, to do stuff really, really cheaply. And if you manage it correctly, you get really, really good value. But you have to live with the fact that they actually don't quite know how to go about it. So they do things a little bit in a way that you shouldn't really go about remotely, and you need to help them over that hurdle. So that's really what I'm doing. And then the third thing that I'm doing is to develop, and I haven't launched that yet, but I'm starting to talk to companies about it, to do professional online remote internships. You know, students, when they study, they go and do internships in companies because it's good to put it on their CV, and then they find a job more easily. In the remote work, that is becoming in high demand as well. But you sit with a profession, you've been in a career, you've done stuff. Sorry, it hasn't been remotely because it doesn't say you can enter the remote market. But professional, you are professional, you're trained already, you do good work already. How about setting up a professional internship where companies that want to recruit remotely, they ease themselves into this by starting to make use of professional interns from all over the world just for projects, so that they learn how to manage remote workers and the other people learn how to work remotely. And you make that match again. You know, it's always like that innovation is on the edge of things. It's where different things come together. And where we are now in remote work and in the online world is many people want to enter, but they don't know how to do it. Many companies want to recruit, but they don't know how to do it. And if you help both of them and give them the knowledge and the know-how and the skills and the tools and all the other things so that they can do that, and then you match them up, then they learn together, and then together they build this all-important online profile that will then make it possible for people who've never met them before to see the quality of their work and start to recruit them beyond that. So I'm sitting on that, I'm building that bridge into the remote world. That's what I'm busy doing at the moment, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I've recently launched the first program, which is the one for people who want to establish themselves remotely, to help them rethink, not just think I want a remote job, because the world has changed. Your job no longer prescribes your life. You need to think about your life first and then decide about what remote work can get you there. We don't normally think like that. So we basically need to rethink how we go about work. And secondly, to get businesses to start to recruit remotely and integrate remote and actual teams on the ground, on site, in a way that is productive. And then thirdly, to develop this internship, professional internship, so that both companies that want to recruit remotely and people who want to work remotely can actually learn together while they're both being mentored and they're in a safe space. So ultimately, there's this shift in remote work from individual to community, and building credible communities where people that want to work remotely, if they align themselves with that particular community, they immediately have the trust of that community. It's like if you want to sell online and you've never sold anything online, like in e-commerce, just link yourself up with Shopify or Amazon, because everybody knows you will get what you order if you order from those platforms. They're credible already. If you set up your own website and you want to sell your own little thing, people don't buy because they don't trust, because you have no profile, you have no credibility. But aligning yourself with platforms and communities that already have credibility, it buys that trust. And I'm actually helping people on that journey. For instance, one of the things that I've done recently is to have a list of almost 106, if I think, 106 websites about remote work and offering remote work of all sorts of kinds, from e-sport right through to e-commerce, right through to full-time jobs, right through to stuff that you just do, tasks that you just do online, like watching ads and giving feedback on ads, the really low-end stuff, right through to professional work. 106 of those websites listed, categorized in what they offer and how you can make use of them, to give people what is out there in remote work. You know, we still think about what used to be there, and it was pretty much the Wild West not so long ago in remote work, where you had to you had to make up the rules as you go. It's no longer like that in the remote work. It's becoming a career. It's becoming the way work happens. But with that comes everything else that's normally part of a work. It has that unspoken, what used to be the office culture is now the remote work culture, and etiquette is there. And if you're not aware of that, you actually, with the best intentions, you convince people that you shouldn't be working for them, even though you're trying to work for them, because you just don't know the office way of doing things. I think it's a really exciting time where we are now with remote work, and I'm really excited to be on this place where I help people walk over that bridge into the remote work world. Because when you first look at it, it's really exciting. You can do almost anything you like, and you can do it for any company anywhere in the world. And then when you walk a little bit down the line, you realize, oh my goodness, the whole world is my competition as well, not just the people around me. So it's a really, really competitive market. And many people give up on that point and say, no, this is too difficult. And to not give up and to become a realist and say, I can create success if I go about it correctly. It's not a binary thing. It's not it does work or it doesn't work. Like in any other career, you can create success if you go about it and you learn along the way. And to help people through that journey to the point of actually establishing themselves, I think it's a really exciting time. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm basically started to focus on that part of the New Zealand Institute for Rural Entrepreneurship, the online global part, because we got locked down in COVID-19. And then when in New Zealand we could start to move around again, I decided, nope, the risk is too high. I can't do that. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And thank goodness I did, because here we are under restriction again. But the good news is then I have these programs, and when I go to small towns, people can sign up and we can continue to interact because I'm doing it online anyway. But I can also have a face-to-face element to that. So I spent a whole lot of time over the last few months learning how to do online webinars and use that as a mechanism to get clients. So that's my scene. That's what I'm doing. I'm using almost exclusively YouTube ads at the moment. I used to use Facebook ads for other things. Never been on Instagram. I've done a little bit of LinkedIn advertisements, but at the moment I'm using almost exclusively YouTube ads to pull people into the webinar, which then becomes the vehicle for prospective customers to go through and then to go through on the other side and to buy on it. I think it's a fascinating world. And I think a few years from now, it is going to be as mainstream as office work is right now. And I love it. I love being involved in it.
Yeah, I see how we have different platforms. When I look at this video, when I shared it, most of the people came from LinkedIn, even though I shared it on many platforms. So most of our customers looking at this will come from LinkedIn. Kaylene's mostly focused on Facebook because that's where her customers come from. Frank's mostly focused on referrals still because that's where most of his customers come from. And Mariana's using YouTube referrals. That's a new place for me to look for referrals. But I want to know from you, where will people find you, Kaylene?
They can go to my website, which is kayleneledgar.com.au, or they can find me as Kaylene Ledgar, coach and author on Facebook. That's probably where I do most of my work from. Yeah.
And you, Frank, where will people go when they want to see FranklySpeaking or one of the other companies that you work with?
Well, at this stage, I'm not very established online, but I think the best would be to probably go to my website, FranklySpeaking.co, or maybe interact with me on LinkedIn. And I think those two platforms would be something, but yeah, it's something that, like I said, I'm starting to really get into develop so that I can go virtual.
And Mariana, where will people look for you?
Well, they could look on LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn. But what I'll do is I'll send you the link or where people can sign up for the webinar. And and then they can actually not only contact me, but actually listen to what it is and what get an overview of where remote work is at and kind of position themselves. So I'll send you a link for that, and then people can take it from there. So by all means, contact me through LinkedIn, or then through, they can go also to the New Zealand Institute for Rural Entrepreneurship, which is nzire.net, to see what that offers. But I think the best way, almost if they're interested specifically in remote work, which I presume they would be if they watch something like this, is to just go straight to the webinar. So I'll send you the link.
No, this is very nice.
Frank, I would really like to hear from you in terms of you moving online. What do you think are the things that would really help you right now, where you're at, to accelerate establishing yourself online? What is it that you're looking for?
Well, I think for me, it's really the platforms are there, but it's trying to, what can I say, getting someone. So, for example, I'm quite good at coming up with a voice or a personal brand that goes out there, but then the actual content creation is not necessarily something that I consider my strength and I'm interested in doing. So content creators will obviously be one of the people that I need to help me do that. And then there's the whole aspect of digital marketing, making sure that I take my brand out there and stage by stage, because I don't want to necessarily, what I want to do is, I think for now I've been focused on making sure that I engage with my current market where they are. So I've been taking that transition with them. Like I said, part of what we've started doing now is attending virtual networking sessions. But beyond this, I'm thinking now, why don't I actually have a wing of my business that does virtual coaching full time, and I can almost work from anywhere. I mean, I could work from anywhere, but I still had to rely a lot on face-to-face. So why don't I launch a virtual networking platform that allows me to do that? So some other thing that I think I need is actually sometimes maybe even my own, like a programmer that helps me build a platform. In fact, one of the things I've been thinking about is how difficult it is to find psychologists and coaches. Whilst they're there on social media, it's very difficult to always know what kind of coach, because it's not just saying if you need a personal effectiveness coach, it's not just a matter of grabbing one. You need to connect with the type of coach, and you need options. And I think a coaching platform would address that. And sometimes you don't want to rely on a Google search, because whilst Google has been around for a long time, not many people are experts at Google or search engine optimization. So I think for me, the things that I think would be very useful for me now as I go virtually is people that help me set myself up, especially when it comes to content creation and content that connects with my customer, content that doesn't necessarily sell to my market, because it's not something I believe in, something that markets and speaks to solving problems to my people. That's something, as someone who helps me with the marketing aspect, which is the reach and controlled reach, because I want to scale step by step. Otherwise, I overstretch myself and I'm not able to deliver on quality. And maybe eventually, one of the things I've been thinking about getting towards is actually coming up with a coaching platform where I link coaches with people that actually need coaching, and do it in a way that's almost instantaneous, and you don't have to ask someone and Google someone and wait to call them, but almost like Airbnb and Uber operates. I have a coaching platform where coaches can come and market themselves, or at least position themselves, and people are able to get almost instant help in doing that. And I think a good software developer or app developer can certainly be someone that I can. In fact, I did ask someone here in South Africa, and they said it would be anything between, in US dollars, I would say it would be anything between, I think 5,000 US to possibly 30,000 US, because with apps you can develop them in stages, and to get to the full functionality, you know, you'd probably need 30,000 US. But I could start operating. The minimum viable product would come out at maybe 5,000 or 6,000 US dollars.
So Mariana can probably link you to someone who can do it for a little bit cheaper.
Oh, through online freelancing, yes, obviously, yes, we can.
And Kaylene, so are you part of a coaching platform, or are you just marketing on your own and your clients refer you to other clients, or do they find you on their own?
So both, really, in the sense that I work with some coaches that also support me, and I refer people to them and they refer people to me. I have got the bulk of my clients because they've listened to me speak, listened to me talk about me and my stories and things that don't go right in my life, and I won't say fails, hardships, things that have challenged me in my life, and then what I've done to get through it, and people seem to connect to that. So because of this is where like when I first started out, I thought, oh, I need to have a website, and I do have a website. I need to do or be across every platform. I need to do this. I need to sign up for referral agencies. I need to. And now I'm at the point where, no, what I need to do is get more of me out there in the digital world, online, social media, and then I can connect with people, and then people can help. And it's also doing things like this, being part of this webinar, being part of other people's podcasts, supporting other people, and you tap into their networks, and that's how it builds and builds and builds. And I'm all for a bit of a connector, in the sense that scratch my back, I scratch your back, I'll see an opportunity, I'll go, I'm going to refer them to. And I'll do that. One of the big things I'm working on right now, and I've just this week coming, I'll finish a 13-week program that I've been running online using Zoom. And it came about because we are online. I was going to focus on speaking courses, because that's the other part of what I do. But I created this It's My Life coaching circle to help people focus on them for 13 weeks. And we get so caught up on doing everything for everybody else. I wanted to allow people space for 13 weeks to put themselves first and to really identify themselves. And I've done this as a trial because I want to run more of these workshops on Zoom like this, but I also want to record it and make it available to more people. And I think that's the beauty of online, because I can run the workshop and I can get it recorded. It's easy to record on Zoom. You can provide additional handouts and notes and resources, and that can be available to anyone, anytime, without me having to be there all the time. And this is where it comes back to what's my internal driver. My internal driver isn't to be successful and wealthy and rich and everything. I want to make a difference in people's lives. And therefore, I want to be able to produce this and get this information and make it accessible to everybody. And that's what we've got, because now it's going to be digital. It will be accessible. I don't have to travel around the world. I can sit here and I can create the content and I can make it available for everybody around the world without having stamps on my passport.
We all love that stamps on our passport, but we cannot do that for the next year or so. Yeah, I love the idea that Mariana has for creating webinars, where you are available, you can answer questions, but when people come and watch the webinar afterwards, they can still be part of it and they can ask questions and you can go back and add answers. So that webinar will be available for years to come while they're still relevant. And you can use it over and over again. It's not done when it's done. You can add on, and I love that idea. Mariana, maybe you can quickly say something about that.
Yeah, the way I'm using it is people can, it's like a normal webinar. So as they participate, they can make comments, they can talk, and then they can also ask questions. And then what I do is I pick those questions out. I go and check every now and then, and I pick them out. And then I answer them to everybody who ever attended the webinar in an email, and provide links to new things or links back to the webinar in the email. And then you get people that signed up previously for the webinar, didn't attend, and then click through that link and now they attend the webinar. So it creates opportunities because in a way it creates community. So I'm doing that where I go back and I check, and if people ask new questions, I actually answer it via email. And I've also started to think that I actually want to start to answer them in short videos that I can then just put online, and people can come and watch the videos as just a Q&A type of a video. At the moment, I'm just doing it text-based on email because I'm just starting out. So I've got 2 or 3 questions already that I've answered that way. But it creates a really good interface. We people have the experience of your presence, but you're also very, very accessible because the webinar runs almost all the time. You can set it up how it needs to run. It's almost like a richer TV ad, and it's a long thing because the webinar is about an hour, so you get a proper content, and people can interact with that, and while you're not there physically, they experience it as a real thing, and it is for real because you come afterwards and then you engage with them afterwards through email or through whatever other means. So I find it a really good way to do this, and I'm currently busy, from what I've learned over this month, I'm currently busy redoing the webinar because I'm learning how to do it better. And I'm busy redoing the webinar, and I don't think I will get rid of the first one because it has its purpose. It makes the case for remote work, but the people who come on it, I find they don't need the case for remote work made because they already decided they want to go to the how-to. So they don't want to hear that. They already decided. So I'm now doing a second webinar where I focus more on what was my experience like and what are the things you need to watch out for as you go on this journey. Just because over it's a month that the other webinar has been run, and I get the feedback. I also ask people to do a survey before they actually go into the webinar. They don't have to, but they can choose to. And I have about 30 people who answered. And that also gives me a rich set of data that I can use to inform me in terms of what do I need to put in the next webinar. So I'm making use of all of these things to kind of hone in on what people want, even though they don't know me from a bar of soap, and neither do I know them from a bar of soap. Should they buy into the program where they actually want the coaching done to take them from point zero to point hero, then we will get to know each other. But in the meantime, we interact in a very safe, non-threatening way, because there's apart from getting an email or typing in an answer or typing in a question, there's no threat for anybody, and it's a controlled environment, so it's also a safe environment.
So I'm thinking, if you have to coach businesses, Frank, and you also have a rich knowledge of typical problems that people have. So you already know some of the answers that people give. And when you do a webinar, even though you're not working directly with a client, then you also can answer typical questions. The same with a personal coach. This is giving me brilliant ideas of what I can hopefully one day do as a business. For me, it's very difficult to think of a business strategy, never mind this digital strategy. I have a problem that I love doing it for other people. I never think of making money from it, but I never know how to do it for myself. And this platform gives me so many ideas.
The big thing I think is the notion of being mentored. I'm throughout my life, I have always believed in being mentored and also in mentoring. And right now, on my journey to shift into this online world, I'm actually paying somebody to mentor me through this journey, because I can fumble around and I'll probably figure it out, and it's probably gonna cost me a few scars here and there, and take me time and spend all the money I would have spent on a mentor in all the failures I need to accommodate. It's just easier to actually engage with somebody that's been there, done that, and they can help you avoid the pitfalls. And I'm always doing that, and that's what I'm doing currently as well, as to actually engage with mentors to help me achieve what I want to achieve. And I think the nice thing about it is that it's not a binary thing. It's not that you do a webinar and it works or it doesn't work. You can actually create the success. It's not. It's like anything. You can work your way into it, and I like that. I really do like that.
I've got to agree with that. You know, a doctor can't doctor themselves, and even a mechanic's car is always broken. So
it's lazy. Yeah.
Some mechanics I know drive a broken car, yet they probably are very good at fixing cars. And I think that aspect of mentorship, in fact, I would call it having someone accountable or answerable for your own development in your life is always important, whether that's a mentor, a coach, or an advisor. Someone that, for me, I look at it in the way that, you know, someone who knows that their bread and butter is making sure that I do something, because, you know, I think it's Simon Sinek that has the concept of givers and takers. Sometimes a lot of people who are givers end up giving too much without necessarily taking care of themselves. And as they say, you cannot give what you don't have. And so you always need someone to make sure that you're keeping healthy, whether it's business-wise or health-wise or any other matter. And I couldn't overemphasize the need to have someone that makes sure that you know, they help you achieve their goals. It just makes it easier and makes it faster.
And therefore the need for coaches. I think the biggest need we have for coaches is that you pay them to help you, and that makes you stick to the plan.
Yeah.
It also helps you not to fall into the pitfalls that would have costed you dearly. The problem is, if you don't fall into those pitfalls, you don't know the cost, so you don't know to be grateful. So how do you sell to people that don't know how grateful they should be for not falling into the pitfalls? And that's kind of the big chicken and egg thing of coaching is, but if you understand that fundamental thing that people can actually help you avoid very expensive and costly errors, I think it's a no-brainer that you need to learn from people that already know how to, especially in the online world and in the digital world, because so many people say so many things, and it's very easy to create a fake perception, and you can so easily fall for that. So you need to kind of you need to also create a platform for yourself and a network for yourself to make sure that you don't fall for anything like that. You actually walk a credible path all the time that you can validate and move forward. And those things are things that you only get by doing them. There's no other way. But you don't have to repeat all the errors that can possibly be made. You can learn from somebody that's already made some of them.
I agree 100% with Mariana and Frank and you, Elizabeth, in relation to that need to live what you are preaching type of thing, in the sense, like, I'm a coach. if I didn't have a coach, that would just be so wrong. So I have coaches and I have mentors. And building on what Mariana said before, I'm part of a number of tribes myself, for my author, for my speaking, and also for like the business development. Plus, I'm creating my own tribe as well. So, and all of that kind of mixes together. And I really have this, you know, together we will thrive. And that's what I want for all of us here, but everybody that we connect with as well, to be able to just keep lifting each other through that support. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment with it.
Thank you again for having us today. I think one of the most common themes, and I had Kaylene and Mariana talk about it, is I think the key to moving your business online is that firstly, you need to understand the opportunities that are available online. And once you do that, you've almost now got to discuss what are my goals then? Because once you know the reality, you can now make an informed choice of goals or reality that you'd like to live. And once you do that, you ask yourself, okay, so what platforms would I need to engage on to be able to connect with my customer? Whether you are a fat cake seller on the street and you want to, keep in business, what you could do is simply start, a WhatsApp ordering platform or even a Facebook ordering platform and distribute across board without people having to come to your particular store. And who knows, you might end up scaling up and having quite a number of people in a number of street corners, and you deliver freshly baked fat cakes from the street. Or you might be a service provider that just wants to, maybe someone who's been previously in a restaurant and maybe now you're out of business. And what you'd like to do is make sure that you put out your services online and get people from your city maybe, or your neighborhood or city, ordering from you. And from your kitchen, you deliver straight to the customer's home without needing to pay rent or anything of that form. So the aspect of understanding the opportunities available is always very important, so that you can set goals based on the reality that's available. And once you do that, you just now simply need to choose the platform where your customers are and engage them. And that way you're able to thrive in the online, where you can be able to start establishing yourself in the online world. Alvin Toffler, a futurist, wrote a book called The Future Shock in the 60s. And if you go onto YouTube and look at that book written in the 60s and what's happening today, you will be in shock of what he said. He said that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but it will be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And so what I find a lot is that, the World Bank says that people who are illiterate probably live on an average $2 every day. And many of us who may have gone to school may end up becoming illiterate if we're not careful, because we don't have a platform to continuously learn. So thank you very much for having me, and it was good hearing some great insights from Kaylene and Mariana, and thank you for bringing us together, Elizabeth.
I love how you have practical solutions. Mariana, last words from you?
Yeah, for me, I think we live in a really exciting time in history. It used to be only the people that we look up to, or the people that are really privileged, that could decide on what life do I want to live and then do the job that will take them to their life. The rest of us had to do whatever work we can find to make a living. And that is busy changing fundamentally. And I think we live in a really exciting time. I'm very much part of that, and very keen to help people not only see that, but realize that, and start to actually focus on value. What values, what impact, what value add do you want to bring to the table? Not so much How do you make money to be able to do that? Because through this whole new world that is busy opening up, that is becoming something that you can really achieve if you work at it. And cracking that formula of how to make that happen for you, I think that's a really exciting world to be in.
I wish to thank our panelists, Tsuro, Kaylene Ledgar, and Mariana van der Walt, for participating in this panel discussion, for the second of 2 introductory videos for the webinar series on moving your business online. During the webinar series, we will also invite guest panelists who will give us insights into specific aspects of this vital and current issue of transforming a local business into an online global business. The topic for the next panel discussion will be confidence building, because we all need that. We invite you to be an audience member. Register by clicking the link provided.